Welcome to Femme and Furious, a podcast where pop culture meets a feminine framing. I am your host, Julia Rose Portella, and today we are breaking down track by track Life of a Showgirl by none other than Taylor Allison Swift. But before we dive into today's episode, let me tell you how you can follow and support the podcast. First and foremost, you can follow the podcast on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on socials at Femme and Furious Pod. You can also send an email, femmeandfuriouspod@gmail.com. Last but not least, you can, if you would like, join the Lipstick and Lore newsletter. That is there to give you exclusive behind the scenes content, gives you the Fast Five, which is a weekly content roundup, and information about the podcast or events that you might want to know about. All that said, let's jump into the Life of a Showgirl. We're going to go track by track. I was expecting a little bit of like a pop cabaret fever dream type of album. And what I think we got was more of a montage from a teen show on CW. Anyway, let's break it down. Okay. The Fate of Ophelia is the opener. And this is what gave me that CW drama teen show energy. The claps, the moody strings, Shakespearean nod, which I love because I went to school for theater. A Shakespearean nod to Ophelia, which is Hamlet's tragic madwoman. She slowly descends to madness after Hamlet rejects her. So Ophelia, since her Shakespearean debut, has become a centuries-old archetype for a silenced woman, and a woman that is drowned by grief, a woman that is defying patriarchal expectations. And so obviously with, the Fate of Ophelia being the opener to this album, there is something around her relationship with Joe, a lot of lyrical nods to which I won't go too deep into, but some lyrical nods which say basically that she was at the end of her relationship with Joe, like digging her own grave. And then this, obviously the Fate of Ophelia is like, you dug my grave up and you helped me get out of this. So obviously it's a nod and a reference to her experience of what it was like to date Joe and then what it was like to date Travis, kind of as the bridge between two major relationships. And we got a whole situationship album with the Torture Poets Department with Maddie Healy in the middle. So, and a little bit of Travis Kelce in there. So I think it's important to understand who Ophelia is because she's become an archetype, but she really is just from Hamlet. She is a madwoman that was rejected. Well, she was not originally a madwoman. She was rejected by Hamlet, and then she slowly descends into madness. So Swift, as a writer, as a lyricist, as a exploration of feminism and mythos, seems to be somebody who can gesture at the lineage that women are punished for being emotional, sexual, or simply like just too much. And she does this really well, and she does it really well in The Fate of Ophelia. So the culture take on this, in my opinion, is that instead of reinventing Ophelia, Taylor leans into her as a shorthand for heartbreak. And it's a great metaphor. It works really well. It's probably going to do well on the album, etc., etc. It works sonically, even though this album wasn't everything that I was expecting it to be. And I recognize that it's my own expectations that are leading me to be slightly like unenthused perhaps about the take on this album, The Life of a Showgirl, but it works sonically. The song works sonically. And while I enjoy that, I do think that it misses a chance to interrogate why women are still cast as these tragic muses like Ophelia. But my overall rating of this is an 8 out of 10. This song is a grower, not a shower. I have a feeling that it will grow on me as the album finds purchase in the world later on. Okay, let's dive into Elizabeth Taylor. Elizabeth Taylor is the name of a Hollywood icon who played in a ton of movies, including Cleopatra, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, and has been emulated in pop culture since. So like most recently, I would say, is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is a book that came out by Taylor Jenkins Reid and sort of emulates a lot of that Elizabeth Taylor energy. So Elizabeth Taylor was villainized for her divorces. She was married 8 times. She had 7 children with 8 different marriages. And she was criticized a lot culturally through the media for her sexual agency, especially because she was popular in the 40s and the 50s, even into the 60s. So it was at a period of time when people adored men, and they still do, for the same sexual agency that she continued to display and really didn't give a fuck about, and continued to do whatever the hell she wanted to do. And she was ultimately successful over the course of her lifetime. So Taylor Swift draws a lot of parallels between herself and Elizabeth Taylor, the starlet, because both women are treated as commodities of desire and of scandal, or at least that was my takeaway from this song. So by invoking Liz Taylor here, Taylor is situating herself with a group of women who are punished for living publicly and passionately and criticized for who they're dating consistently, which is something that Taylor has given us a lot of public feedback that, like, no one really cares about X, Y, or Z. They just care about who I'm dating, even if that's not the most interesting thing about what I'm doing. So it's a feminist reclamation of some way. It is wrapped in a wine-soaked melancholy in this song. It was like a 7 out of 10 for me. This is a song that you listen to with a glass of wine in your bathtub with the lights off and some candles flickering as you're doom scrolling through TikTok, probably looking at Taylor Swift Easter eggs. So that's my take on that. Then we have Opalite. It is a shimmery, theatrical number that finally gives us a moment. Like, when this song came on, I was like, okay, finally, like, there's some reprieve from some sad girl vibes and energy from the song. The lyric, life is a song, when it ends, feels almost nihilistic, a soft resignation, perhaps, that is masked by glitter. And this reminded me a lot, like, this idea of life is a song, when it ends. It reminded me a lot of the life of a showgirl with, like, the purple cracks running through it, like all of the glittery cracks that were running through it. It echoes the theater kid that clearly exists in Taylor, and it is delivering a Broadway level drama. This finally had some Broadway or showgirl vibe as far as like a sonic sound as it was moving through the song. But Opalite as a stone, because, you know, this is what I do professionally, is about transformation and about resilience. And the song hints at women, and Taylor in particular, embracing the impermanence without shame. And for that, I really liked this song. It is a quiet feminist win. I've seen a lot of people online today already claiming this song as like a song about Fourth Wing, because it says lightning strikes and then it says onyx. I've seen a lot of people claiming that like Taylor's read Fourth Wing, which maybe she has or maybe she hasn't, who knows. And honestly, other than Rebecca Yarros, who cares? Because we already know that Taylor is the people's princess. It's like Taylor can't do anything else to be more relatable to people, even though she is the least relatable person to any of us at this point. Maybe in 2008, when she was doing Fearless, she was relatable to us. She was singing songs about Drew with her guitar in a classroom about different periods and stuff like that. But Taylor is a billionaire at this point. And it shows, you know, one of the things that, you know, just based off of this album and the past couple of albums alone, is like she doesn't even have to release a single to know that her album is going to be at the top of a chart somewhere, or win an award. Like, you know, a few of her albums that have not had singles have won Album of the Year. There's really no reason for us to feel like she's relatable at this point, and it's a part of her marketing ploy for sure. This is no longer something that feels organic, or it used to, where like people used to go to like release parties at her house in Manhattan. So there was a point where she was the people's princess in like a really tangible kind of way. And now it's more like she bakes sourdough. She's just like us. And it's like, no, we're baking sourdough because we can't afford bread at the grocery store. Taylor can buy every grocery store in this country plus some. So, you know, I really liked the song. I know I just went off on a tangent, and the tangent was about Fourth Wing, but I really like the song. I thought Opalite is where we start to get a little bit more of what I was expecting the album to be like. This was 15 out of 10 for me. Thank God for the chorus of the song. Thank God for the bridge. It is finally giving women permission to just exist. And it did it in a way that was very theatrical and shimmering, and I appreciate that. All right, let's get into father figure. Okay, hear me out. This one leans on like mafioso energy because it was giving me The Godfather, and George Michael was credited on the song. So I was thinking more when I saw that we were gonna get I'm Your Cool Slutty Daddy Pedro Pascal drop with obviously not that quote, but then you know how he says, I'm your cool slutty daddy, or like daddy's a state of mind. And then they go into the George Michael song. I thought we were going to get more George Michael-esque stuff. So I don't know. It feels like it's referencing The Godfather a little bit, but ultimately feels slightly undercooked to me. It's like pasta that wants to be al dente, like it wants to be perfectly cooked, but it's just like slightly like a little crunch to it. The I protect the family thing is, I don't know. It's Brandon Marlowe. It's Brandon Marlowe with a cigar saying, You come to me on this, the day of my daughter's wedding. I don't know, just something about it just feels like a little half baked there. When I walked into the song, I wanted it to feel more fun. I would have even liked it if it felt like it was flirting with daddy issues. But overall, it just felt like it was missing something. So this is a 4 out of 10. It's sad girl coded and like not in a good way. And the George Michael sample drop that came out really baited me into thinking that the song was going to be slightly better than it was. Number 5, Eldest Daughter. This is the song I was most excited about for this album. A concept that many of us, I think, were anticipating, because I think many of us who listen to Taylor Swift are, in fact, eldest daughters. An eldest daughter burden song feels really right for the cultural picking, and yet with this song in particular, I felt like I needed a tequila shot, despite the fact that I am 5 years sober. This was what I was hoping would be a cathartic anthem. What I thought that Slut would be on 1989 Taylor's version, I thought this song would make up for it, and this ain't it. It just didn't hit for me. Sorry. Unfortunately, I just felt like it really didn't deliver. The eldest daughter archetype is about invisible labor and emotional caregiving and crushing expectations of perfection. And I think she does touch on some of that across the song, but the whole point is to do it with a smile. Like there is something about the eldest daughter syndrome that's like, and we have our Barbie smile on. And I think this track just felt a little bit flat to me. There's a feminist anthem buried somewhere in the concept of the song, one that could have linked lots of millennial women together as our, We Ride at Dawn song with Taylor Swift in the background. So I'm rating it a 3 out of 10. This was a heartbreaking miss for me. Okay, Ruin the Friendship. My first impression of this was, oh, okay, we're getting a nice upbeat song. And then as the song progressed, I was like, actually, this is devastating. This song has yearning, it has regret, it has what we thought could be. It's reminiscent, it's nostalgic, it's sorrowful, it's a lot of things tied up in a really nice, pretty sonic bow. And Taylor is doing her best work, in my opinion, when she captures the complexities of love and nuance of what that experience looks and feels like as she's moving through the world. And this song sits firmly in that tradition for me. So this idea of like, what if we had gone there? What if this had played out? What if we had gotten that opportunity? Love that doesn't come to pass is so devalued next to romance proper. And I think there's something, about having a crush on somebody or falling in love with somebody or being friends with somebody and not knowing if it could be more and not knowing if you even want it to be. And I just thought that this was a really beautiful exploration of that question mark, that sort of ... question mark. What could have been, what could be. So this was a 10 out of 10 for me. It was heart shattering, the lyrics at least, but this was a really good song and one of my favorites on the album by far. This is what I would like to call the queen of sad girl bangers. Okay, let us get into Actually Romantic. Now, I don't know how I feel about the song because it is clearly a song that is not flirting with, like openly exploring some pushback about a song that Charlie XCX wrote, which is called Sympathy is a Knife. And that song that Charlie wrote is a deep exploration of her own insecurities when comparing herself to somebody like Taylor Swift, who is so conventionally beautiful and so famous and popular, like all of those things. And I think when you are somebody who creates art of any kind, this is something that I firmly believe that, art doesn't belong to you anymore once it's out in the world. It belongs to the people who digest it. So when they say like the road to hell is paved with good intentions, is oftentimes how art can be perceived, because the way that we are, the state that we're in, the things that we're feeling or working through when you are creating is not how it will be processed and digested out in the world and digested out in the world when people who have their own lives, their own complexities, their own faults and flaws and gifts and talents. That's not how art is always received. It cannot be received and perceived perfectly. So I don't think it's wrong for Taylor to find some sort of response, but I find it interesting because Taylor comments on almost nothing. And when she does comment through her music and her art. So this isn't like, hey, she's commented on something out in the world and it's just found purchase somewhere else. So it makes sense that if she's going to do it somewhere, she's going to do it in her music. However, I thought that what Charlie XCX was getting at and how Taylor responded to it was like missing chips in the night. They just didn't feel like the same energy or the same vibe. That being said, Actually Romantic feels really queer coded to me. It is flirtatious. There's some tension in there. I feel like maybe Charlie and Taylor just need to fuck. Like, just kiss already was sort of one of the notes that I wrote down. That is what makes a song like this shine. And even though it's considered a quote unquote diss track, it's playful, it's intimate. It definitely is queer baiting all of the bisexuals. It's definitely coded for girls who love to read fantasy, like an enemies to lovers fantasy. It is a really nice exploration in the best way possible that it could be. That while Taylor is not extending a ton of grace to Charlie XCX here, that it is about as fun as a diss track could be. It sort of reminds me of Back and Speak Now when Taylor released Better Than Revenge. That this feels in the same vein to me. They're fun diss tracks. The best lyric is, "It sounded nasty, but it feels like you're flirting with me." I think this is a 15 out of 10. It feels really bisexual. Just kiss already. Just kiss. Kiss and make up. You guys can do it. Number 8, Wish List. The weakest entry, the weakest link. It leans on consumerist metaphors and vocal theatrics that don't land. Like, both of those things don't land for me. The consumerist notion of the song and the vocal theatrics also don't land for me. It feels like back in the day when you were in a Mandy's like fitting booth trying something on, like the music that would be playing in the background right before you're about to swipe your parents' credit card when you really shouldn't be. Like, actually, the high notes in this song were a jump scare for me. So yeah, 4 out of 10. Feels like a fever dream that you need some acid to digest. All right, let's get into Wood. My first impression was that it sounded like a Jackson 5 song when it opened, which finally, like a pop song on an album that was described to be like a pop banger hit. I will just say, I don't know if it's the best lyrics or the most unhinged lyrics, but like every time she mentions Joe on this album, she's like, "Joe, LOL, you're poor. I'm rich. My dick is bigger than yours. My dick is bigger than the devil's. I'm wealthy. You are a plebe." That's exactly how she sounds, by the way. Every time she talks about Travis, she's like, "Did you know that he could fuck? Did you know that I'm getting dick down?" To have a song called Wood is crazy to begin with. Then to have a lyric that describes him as a redwood tree. I don't know if any of you have read a fantasy novel in the past however long, but It is like a joke on the internet in the book community. And if you're here on this podcast, you probably do read books like this. It is a joke on the internet where they will say, like, this is the biggest guy that's ever existed. And it will be like, whoa, like huge. It's ginormous. For those of you watching, you're getting a nice visual of me moving my arm out like a big dick. For those of you listening, that's what I'm doing. We get it, girl. Travis is packing. The lusty metaphors aren't inherently feminist, but they are reclaiming sexuality as a fun feminist thing. And so I take an interest in that on this podcast. It is a playful song. It's a funky track. It's got those Jackson 5 vibes, as I said earlier. I love women writing about men as sex objects and flipping centuries long objectification on its head, even if it's cheeky. So 8 out of 10. This is fun. It's bold. It's slightly unhinged, but I had a good time with it. Canceled. Finally, a moment of pure catharsis. Bringing a tiny violin to a knife fight is instantly iconic. This to me felt like, there's a Taylor line. This is Taylor at her sharpest. It's witty, it's biting, it's unapologetic. Obviously, being canceled is something that is culturally relevant right now. This is allegedly looking at Blake Lively and everything that has unfolded in Blake's scandal, though I'm not really sure if that's true or untrue, because the song seems quite favorable. Like, I like that my friends are canceled. I like people who have the same scars that I do. So either it's patronizing to Blake Lively, who's been in the limelight for just about as long, if not longer, than Taylor Swift. It's patronizing at best if that's who it's about, and it's confusing at worst if it's not supposed to be that. I don't really understand if she's saying that they are friends or not friends. I guess we don't need to understand. We are not the one that are living her life. But she turns her narrative into a weapon, and that's when I think that Taylor is at her best. So this track, which is somewhat mocking and dismissive and refusing to shrink into cultural expectations or the understanding of what it is to be in the public eye, if Canceled was more of what the entire album was exploring, I think it would be more in alignment with what I thought Life of a Showgirl would be. 10 out of 10. This should have been the single on the album. Honey, it's cute, it's vibey, it's sort of acid trip adjacent. I've said that a couple times on this album, but that is really how I feel. It's somewhat softer, but it is still vibey. It's a song that reclaims a word that has been used to patronize or belittle Taylor. And by saying that her relationship with Travis is essentially reclaiming all of these things that, used to bother her as she was moving around, in the way that men tend to use language to diminish women. If you are, once again, a fan of fantasy, if you like when a main male character goes from calling her princess in a derogatory sense to princess in a adoring sense, this song is for you, because that's what the song is getting at. It makes me like Travis a little bit more. It makes me wonder if, despite the fact that she's getting married, if Taylor likes Travis because Travis likes Taylor. That's all I'll say about that. That's a little bit of what I got from this song. 8 out of 10. It's got perfect shampoo bottle ballad vibes all over it. And then last but not least, we get Life of a Showgirl. My first impression was actually my last impression of the album, which is the song finally grew on me by the time it was fading out. So I liked the ending. I liked the live, it's not footage, but live sound, live audio from her concerts, Taylor's concerts. It felt lush. It felt cinematic. But it also felt emblematic of the album's identity crisis a little bit. Showgirls have historically been glamorized and exploited, something that Taylor talks about a lot in this album. The experience of being desired on stage and discarded off of it. And Taylor's nod to that feels personal, but underdeveloped. And I think I was expecting, and again, this is my own expectations, I think I was expecting more of like I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, where we are poking at something incredibly real while doing it under the beat. And I think there is something around theater and showgirls and like theater proper, like that's just the life of a showgirl. I think when I go back to Midnights and Vigilante shit, there is this call that she does, not necessarily in the song, but in the Eras tour, she does the chair dance, which is, you know, from Chicago, the musical, He Had It Coming, etc., etc. And there is a song at the end of Chicago called Nowadays, and where Roxy and Velma perform together. And the song is what I would describe as like bittersweet. And theater, as a theater kid, I did theater my whole life. I went to school for theater. Theater in its finest is bittersweet. There is something campy about it. There is something nostalgic or sentimental about it. And so I think theater and show business or anything that pertains to like this idea of like cabaret or, you know, film noir or like performative sort of experiences of art in this sort of showgirl manner. There is something, I think the word is bittersweet, and I think the song does it and gets there, but I think the album as a whole doesn't. And that's what I think falls flat for me. Feels like there's a big identity crisis that this album had. So between the marketing and then what we got, it just, I don't know, it just didn't land. And I was expecting, and again, this is my own expectations, I think I wanted something a little bit flashier, and instead it felt very much like Dolores Van Cartier in the beginning of Sister Act, like without purpose, without passion, just kind of in the back of the hotel, in the back of the casino with like her big fur coat on and like dating a weird guy and like not really performing great. Like it just felt flat and like a little bit off to me based off of what I thought we were going to get. But again, that's my thought and expectation. But it's sort of also how it was marketed to us. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. The song itself is a 9 out of 10 for me. It's thematically rich. It's got Sabrina Carpenter on it. It's great. The overall cultural take on the album is that it's fascinating in theory that women are muses and showgirls and daughters and lovers and scapegoats and all of the other stuff that she talks about here, but the execution of it felt messy. The marketing leaned into like sultry cabaret. Like that was the look of the era. The way that the interviews and things were being described was more pop based. I will also say this about the marketing. On 8/12, they announced that the New Heights episode was coming out. On 8/13, we got the New Heights episode. We got the It's Frightening limited release deluxe CD. On 8/13, we got the It's Rapturous limited release deluxe CD. And on 8/13, we also got the It's Beautiful limited release deluxe CD, all of which were available on her website for only 72 hours, limited releases. Then on 8/18, we got the Shiny Bug vinyl collection. Okay, available I think for only 48 hours. On 8/21, we get the Baby That's Show Business vinyl collection. Again, I think only 48 hours. On 8/25, we get the Tiny Bubbles in Champagne. I'm pretty sure that was also a vinyl collection. On 9/19, we get a release party that is being held in cinemas from October 3rd to October 5th. So this is exclusive content that you can only get in theaters, released in theaters. You have to buy a ticket to go see a movie about information on this album. On the 25th, 25, we get the Crowd Is Your King edition, available on Summertime Spritz Pink Shimmer vinyl. It is a Target exclusive. There was no single, but 7 exclusive releases and a movie release. So I don't know who's funding your Taylor Swift habits, but it's clear to me that I need a sugar daddy to be able to afford all of this, because who's buying all of that? It's a real problem. We're going to talk about this on another episode, but that was a part of the marketing, was all of these like exclusive releases that were happening. If we're keeping the feminist angle, Taylor's cultural project remains supreme. She continues to insert women's archetypes into mainstream pop, which is something that I love and I will continue to love. And she is forcing us to reconcile our long-standing history of how we understand these archetypes and what they mean and what their history is and how they are a guided map to understanding her a little bit deeper as a person, as a human. So even if I personally don't think this is her strongest album, I do think that there is a lot in this album that keeps a feminist conversation alive, particularly around Ophelia and Elizabeth Taylor, and Opalite. Like those first early tracks have a lot of really deep feminist themes in them that I find interesting, that I find relevant, that I find important. And I'm excited to see what Taylor cooks up next. This is it. Our era of life of the showgirl is here. We'll see what she does as this era continues. And I look forward to it. So that's our episode for today. Thank you so much for being here. I'm wearing the only orange that I currently own that's not packed away in boxes because I am moving shortly. I'm really looking forward to bringing you some more content about Paris as I get there and all of that good stuff. So thank you so much for listening to this episode of Femme and Furious. I will be back on Tuesday with our coverage of Stranger Things. It will be season 2, episode 7 through 9. And till then, take your bow, showgirl. You deserve it.